Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings for Friday, November the 10th. We're back with a decent sized slate for Friday night, guys. 9 games, so we're going to go game by game, give a quick breakdown of this 9-game slate. What I do like, taking a first look at this slate on Thursday. I am recording this video a little bit earlier than I normally do. I'm recording this video on Thursday afternoon. Since it was only like a 2-game slate Thursday, it was there wasn't a ton to work on. Figured since I had some extra time, I would just go ahead and get this video knocked out for Friday. So we're gonna give an early preview of Friday's slate. Again, we'll do a game by game breakdown. Before we do get started though, guys, as always, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos and if they do help you out, make sure you hit that like button down below, guys. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to the channel and if you don't have an account over on PrizePicks, we are partnered up with PrizePicks. You guys can check out PrizePicks linked down below in the description, or just when you sign up for PrizePicks, make sure to use promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you sign up for PrizePicks with my promo code. And if you don't know what PrizePicks is, what they are a player prop site. They're focused on player projections, and it's really simple. You just pick whether you think a player goes over or under, so more or less than their projection. Since I am making this video on Thursday afternoon, they don't really have any props up yet for Friday, but obviously they have stuff up for Thursday's games. But you check the board, late Thursday night, Friday morning, you'll see plenty of projections, plenty of props, plenty of different categories. And on PrizePicks, it's really simple. Again, you're just picking more or less on a player's projection. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 6 picks on PrizePicks, and you can win up to 25x your money. So check them out, guys. Sign up. Use that promo code NOAH when you do sign up, and you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. But let's talk about this Friday night slate. I think this is like the second round of the in-season tournament. So these games, I don't want to say they're going to be like playoff type games in terms of rotations, but these games might mean a little bit more to these teams than they normally would. So maybe you'll see minutes be a little bit more condensed in these games, but nothing too crazy. But we got the first game of the night, Charlotte and Washington. We're seeing a rematch of this game. We saw these two teams play on Wednesday. This is going to be another game to target. It was a game that we wanted to target on Wednesday's slate. I think that's going to be the case for this slate. We'll start off on the Charlotte side. So looking at the Hornets here, still no Terry Rozier. I believe he's going to be out for next few weeks is what they said, or a few games. So he's going to be out. Gordon Hayward is probable, so he is expected to play. Other than that, I think that's kind of all the injury news here. Now, if we're looking at this Charlotte team, obviously LaMelo Ball is the guy we probably want to focus on. LaMelo was way underpriced last slate at only $8,900. He was really popular. I played him in my main lineup. He was kind of a hard guy to avoid. This slate, I think, is a little bit different. He's up to 10K now, so I think at 10K, LaMelo is not as much of a priority as he was last slate, but man, it's still a really good matchup. It's a really good game environment. It's going to be a fast-paced, high-scoring game. The minutes have been, the minutes limit, I should say, for LaMelo has pretty much been gone now. He's played 39 and 36 minutes in their last 2 games. And it's worth noting, last game was kind of a blowout. He actually got subbed out early last game, so he was on pace to play like 39 minutes again had that game stayed close. I think LaMelo, even at 10K, still looks like a really strong pay-up option today. Obviously, the role for him is going to be great without Terry Rozier. Gordon Hayward's a tough guy to want to pay $7,100 for, but man, we've seen Gordon Hayward be really productive the last 2 games without Rozier. Usage has been strong. He's been rebounding. He's been getting assists. He's kind of been doing everything when he's been on the floor. At this price tag of $7,100, I'm not like slamming Hayward into my lineups or anything, but I think he is still playable just because he is going to have a ton of opportunity. PJ Washington at $6,700 feels priced about right. Between him or Hayward, I think I would rather roster Hayward. I think Hayward's just going to have a better role, going to have the ball in his hands more. And then Mark Williams, I think it's in a pretty good matchup. Now, Mark Williams last game, I'm pretty sure got into some early foul trouble, which really kept his minutes low. But in games where he's not in foul trouble and when it's a competitive game, he typically plays around 30 minutes. And Mark Williams is someone that can be productive on a point-per-minute basis. This matchup against the Wizards has been a really good matchup for centers. So I don't mind Mark Williams here as a GBP play at $6,300. Don't mind Brandon Miller either. He should continue to start while Rozier's out. Minutes have been really good for Brandon Miller. Production has not been great, but again, he's going to play a lot. He's going to play probably 34, 35 minutes if the game's competitive. He's still viable at $6,100, but I think that's pretty much it for the Hornets. You are definitely going to want to be focusing on, like LaMelo Ball here. It really stands out. Hayward, Washington, Williams, Miller, they're all fine plays. I would say Hayward's probably my second favorite play on the Hornets behind LaMelo. Now on the other side, looking at the Wizards, I like a lot of these Wizards guys again. I know some of them did not do well last game, but I'm fine going right back to him. I think it's a great matchup. I think this is a game the Wizards can keep competitive. We should see really big minutes for Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma was one of the few starters last game that did do really well. Played 31 minutes, had 51 DraftKings points. Look, Kuzma's been really good in the games that the Wizards have been able to keep close. A lot of Kuzma's bad games this season have been due to blowout. This is a game that should be close, so I think we can once again expect big minutes from Kyle Kuzma. I'm fine paying $8K for Kuzma, especially in this matchup. I think he's worth this salary. So I really like Kyle Kuzma today, made him the thumbnail for today's video. Jordan Poole was disappointing last game. I would be fine going back to Jordan Poole, though. Minutes should be strong. I know he only played 20 minutes last game, but that was a weird, you look at the rotations last game for the Wizards, pretty much all the starters besides Kuzma didn't play a ton of minutes. Like, they really played their bench guys a lot last game. I don't think that's something we can expect to happen every game, and I think most nights when it's a close game, you're going to see Jordan Poole play 30-plus minutes, and we know Jordan Poole can get hot, can knock down shots. It's a great matchup, fast-paced game. I like going to Jordan Poole in GPPs. I like going to Denny Avia, Tyus Jones, Daniel Gafford. Like, I think all these guys are appealing at their price tags. Denny Avia, he did get decent minutes last game, 28 minutes. Wasn't great from a per-minute basis, from a production standpoint, but I think this matchup's good, fast-paced game. I think Denny Avia is a fine GPP play. Tyus Jones only played 19 minutes last game, which was really weird. We've seen the minutes be pretty secure for Tyus Jones this season, but last game, obviously they were way down. Again, I think that's just kind of like an outlier. I would say more times than not, Tyus Jones plays like 30 minutes, 30, 32 minutes, and we've seen Tyus Jones be able to be productive when he gets minutes. Doesn't have the highest ceiling, but in a good matchup like this, there's definitely upside for Tyus Jones here, and I'm fine going to him at 5,500. And then last guy I'll mention is Daniel Gafford. Centers have been able to do really well against Charlotte in the past. They've been able to do well against Charlotte this season. Gafford was productive in the minutes that he got, but he only played 13 minutes, largely due to foul trouble. Also, the Wizards just really ran with their bench last game. I know Danilo Gallinari got a lot of minutes off the bench. Again, I think if we get like 25 to 30 minutes from Gafford here in a great matchup, at 5,300, he can definitely outperform the salary. He is a productive player when he gets the minutes. It's just that the minutes can sometimes be volatile for him. But I like all 5 starters from Washington once again. I'm fine going back to these guys. Definitely, though, Kuzma is my favorite, and I think Kuzma is the guy that I obviously have the most confidence in. But that'll do it for that game. Obviously, a lot to like there. Let's move on to the next game, Philadelphia and Detroit. Not as much to like here. On the Philadelphia side, I would say it's a pretty decent matchup for these Sixers guys. I don't think Detroit's going to be, I don't think they're going to be a horrible defensive team like they were last year, but I don't think they're also going to be a great defensive team either. Joel Embiid, a guy that has massive upside, can put up a huge game any night. He feels priced about right though on this slate at 11,200. We don't have like a lot of the top tier guys like Jokic isn't on this slate, Giannis isn't on this slate, so I definitely think Embiid does look like one of the better pay-up options. It's just a matter of what kind of value are we going to get? Are we going to be able to pay that much for Embiid? I don't think the matchup's great. Like Jalen Duren's been pretty solid defensively this season, but Embiid is a matchup-proof player. He's totally in play today. Maxey, Tobias Harris, Kelly Oubre, like all these other Sixers guys feel priced about where they should be. Maxey's had a massive season so far, been playing huge minutes. I think the matchup for him against Detroit is fine. I don't have an issue going to Maxey, 8,100. Don't have an issue going to Tobias Harris, but no standout plays coming from the Sixers team. And on the other side with Detroit, Detroit's probably a team I'll pass on here, but we do have to talk about some potential, maybe value here. So Jaden Ivey, Alec Burks have been out the last few games. It's already been reported they're not going to play Friday. Both Burks and Ivey are out. And the biggest beneficiary without Ivey and Burks has definitely been Marcus Sasser. Now, Sasser's price tag is up to 5,800 on DraftKings, so I don't think we're going to want to roster him at this salary. He was a good value when he was in the 4Ks. Now that he's almost 6K, hard to really consider him much of a play, I think. He's just kind of like a GBP dart throw at best. Cade Cunningham, going to have a huge role, going to have the ball in his hands a lot. I don't love this matchup, though. I think it's a really tough spot for Cade. Sixers, a good defensive team. They play really slow. I don't want to be rostering a ton of Pistons on this slate, but Cade is always viable. Azor Thompson's a guy that can do everything when he's on the floor. Great rebounder, a guy that can block some shots as well. At 6,900, he's a playable option. The minutes are going to be strong for Azor Thompson. They've been strong lately. Obviously, tough spot for Jalen Duren. A lot of foul trouble risk going up against Embiid. Not a guy that I really want to roster on this slate. Isaiah Stewart at his price tag, I'll probably pass on. Killian Hayes, I know had a decent game last game. I'll probably pass on him as well. So I think if I'm going to roster anyone in Detroit here, it's probably going to be Cade or Azor Thompson. Probably Azor Thompson is my favorite play from the Pistons. But that'll do it for that game. Let's move on to the next one, Brooklyn and Boston. So for Brooklyn here, some injuries to talk about for Brooklyn. No Cam Thomas, no Nick Claxton, and Ben Simmons and Cam Johnson, I believe, are both questionable. So we're going to have to monitor the status of Simmons and Johnson. Without Cam Thomas, there's obviously a lot of usage available. Cam Thomas is a high-usage player that takes a lot of shots, so getting him off the floor is going to open up more usage for guys like Mikal Bridges, Spencer Dinwiddie, maybe Ben Simmons, maybe Cam Johnson if he plays. Obviously, this is a really tough matchup against the Celtics. Not a spot that we really like to target, but I think because Cam Thomas is out, there is at least some value here. Now, the price tags on Bridges and Dinwiddie and Simmons feel correct. These guys all are priced where they should be. But I think you're going to see a lot of usage and a lot of shot attempts for Bridges, for Dinwiddie, maybe for Ben Simmons if he plays. Lonnie Walker, might start. I don't know what they're going to do with the starting lineup. If Lonnie Walker does start, he's playable at 5,900, but again, DraftKings has done a good job of pricing guys up, after an injury. I think at this price tag, I'm not running to roster Lonnie Walker. I think if he was 4,900, it would be a different story. At 5,900, he's just he's playable, but I don't like him a ton. And then Dorian Finney-Smith and Royce O'Neal, I think probably out of play for me at their salaries. Maybe if Cam Johnson remains out, you could consider someone like Royce O'Neal. I know Royce O'Neal had a good game last game. I think that could have largely been due to Ben Simmons being out as well. So it's kind of like a wait and see. I think if Simmons and Johnson are both out, and then it's going to be, there's going to be guys we kind of have to target here just because Brooklyn's going to be so shorthanded. If there is no Simmons, if there is no Johnson, the price tags on these Brooklyn guys, again, still look pretty fair. But Royce O'Neal, I feel like I would never pay 5,600 for Royce O'Neal, but he would have to play a ton if there's no Simmons and if there's no Johnson. So maybe he would be my favorite play on this Brooklyn team. But I don't like a ton on Brooklyn right now. I think the price tags have adjusted enough to where this is not a spot that I want to be too heavily invested in. Plus, there's tough matchup here. There's blowout risk in this game. I don't want to be rostering too many Nets on this slate. And on the other side with Boston, this Boston team, their usage is very, very condensed around the 5 starters. You don't really see a ton of usage or offensive production come from their bench. So if we're going to roster anyone from Boston, and we're going to be focusing on the starters here. Looking at the price tags, I would say my favorite of all the Boston starters is probably Jrue Holiday at 6,600. Jrue Holiday did take kind of a hit last game with Derek White back. We saw Jrue Holiday be really good in the 2 games that Derek White was out. Last game with Derek White back, obviously not the greatest performance from Jrue Holiday, but Jrue is one of these players that can do everything when he's on the floor, can score, can rebound, can get assists. He nearly had a triple-double in that game against Brooklyn last time these teams played, albeit, that was without Derek White. At 6,600, Jrue is playable, in my opinion. Jason Tatum is always a guy you can pay up for. I haven't really been playing Tatum much this season. I think his ceiling is definitely capped a little bit now that he's sharing the ball with Porzingis and Jaylen Brown and Jrue Holiday. So yeah, I don't see a ton that I love from Boston here. If I had to pick anyone from the Celtics to play, when you factor in price tag, I think Drew's probably my favorite, but not a strong take there. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game, Utah and Memphis. So for Utah, we did see no Walker Kessler last game. Walker Kessler, I think, is going to be out for a week or two. And without Walker Kessler, they actually kind of changed up the starting lineup last game. I thought it was going to be Kelly Olynyk that would start in place of Kessler, but they actually went small, started John Collins at the 5, and we did see Keontae George and Obaji start last game. So I'm guessing that we're going to see Keontae George and Obaji start again. They moved Taylor Horton-Tucker to the bench. I don't know if that was a permanent move or what, but it looks like the Jazz were going to go small while Kessler's out and just start John Collins at the 5. I think that does boost John Collins' fantasy upside a little bit. Him and Lauri Markkanen, I think, probably get a little bit of a boost here in their rebounding numbers without Kessler. Markkanen last game in a really good matchup against Indiana was solid, 40 DraftKings points in 35 minutes. Much tougher spot here against Memphis. I'll probably pass on Markkanen today at his price tag. John Collins got priced up as well to 6,500. Much tougher matchup for him. Probably going to pass on Collins here. Don't mind Jordan Clarkson, though. We saw Jordan Clarkson have a really big game last game. He's going to play a ton of minutes. Usage should be really strong. He did take 26 shot attempts last game. Walker Kessler being out, honestly, I think you could say that, THT moving to the bench is probably what really helped Clarkson. I don't know if Kessler being out was much of a benefit, but when you replace Kessler, or when you replace Kessler and THT with Agbaji and George, 2 lower usage players, that's just going to allow for guys like Clarkson, Markkanen, the higher usage players, to just get even more opportunity. And we kind of saw that be the case last game with Clarkson having a really big game. So if they continue to bring like THT off the bench and they continue to run the same starting lineup they did last game, I think that really benefits Jordan Clarkson. So at 6,400, I do like him quite a bit on this slate. I think he is firmly in play. If Kelly Olynyk comes off the bench, I'll pass on him at 5,400. No interest in THT if he's coming off the bench again. And then we got to talk about George and Agbaji. So George did play a good amount of minutes last game. 31 minutes was, okay, had 23 DraftKings points. He did get priced up to 4,700. So at 4,700, I'm not like running to roster Keontae George, but I still think he's a playable value. And then we did see Agbaji get priced up as well. He was 3,100 last slate. He's 4K today. I'll probably pass on Agbaji at 4K. He's a very low usage player that doesn't take a lot of shots when he's playing with these other guys. We did see Agbaji have some really big games last season towards the end of the season, but that was when they didn't have Markkanen, they didn't have some of those other guys. With Markkanen healthy, with Clarkson healthy, Agbaji is just not going to get enough opportunity. So even if he starts again, I'll probably pass on him at 4K. So that's really it for Utah. Let's move on to the Memphis side now. And looking at the Grizzlies here, only major injury news we need to monitor is the status of Xavier Tillman. So Tillman, I believe, has been out the last 2 games. The biggest beneficiary without Tillman has definitely been Bismack Biyombo. Last 2 games in place of Tillman, we've seen Biyombo start, play 26 and 30 minutes, and been relatively productive with 32 and 23 DraftKings points. Surprisingly, DraftKings lowered the price tag on Bismack Biyombo. He's 4,900 today. If Xavier Tillman is out again and Biyombo starts, I think Biyombo's a pretty decent value play at 4,900. I do have some interest in him. The top guys here, Bane and Triple J, I think are both in really good spots. Utah defensively has not been good this season. Their defense probably gets worse without Walker Kessler, so I think it's a pretty good spot for Bane. I know Bane, last time they played Utah, was disappointing. It was a massive blowout. I would expect him to have a much better game here. Memphis is at home. Memphis has been really disappointing this season without Ja. I mean, they've I think they're like 1-6 or something. Their record is terrible. This does feel like a spot where you should expect guys like Bane and Triple J to do well. So I do like both these guys here. I think they are both in play for GBPs. Between the two, I would rather roster Bane. Triple J is a guy that I like to roster more on draft or on FanDuel and Yahoo, where you get 3 points for those blocks and steals. And then Marcus Smart at 6,600. Look, Marcus Smart, he's a guy that's going to give you a decent floor. The ceiling, though, on Marcus Smart is pretty low. And at 6,600, you kind of need him to put up a ceiling game to be worth his salary. I'll pass on Marcus Smart at 6,600, I think. And then we talked about Biyombo. If he starts again, I do like him for value. But that's it for that game. Let's move on to the next one, Minnesota and San Antonio. So Minnesota, if we're looking at the Timberwolves here, it's a pretty good matchup going up against San Antonio. I think Anthony Edwards at 9K is a fine GBP play. Edwards has been really good this season, scoring the ball a ton, taking a ton of shots. The volume's been great from a shooting standpoint. He's been rebounding too, been getting some assists as well. Look, I'd never have an issue playing Anthony Edwards. He's not a guy that I've played much this season so far, but I think on this slate, he is totally fine to go to. Cat and Gobert, I don't have a ton of interest in. If I had to pick one of the two, though, I would rather go to Gobert. I don't know why, but Cat, from a fantasy perspective, has just been pretty underwhelming this season. We just haven't really seen much upside at all from Cat. Gobert is a lot cheaper. He's going to probably produce at the same rate Cat is. He's honestly been better from a fantasy perspective than Cat has, and you're getting him at a big discount compared to Cat. So I do like Gobert at 6,800. I think he's firmly in play. Him and Ant are probably the two guys I like most from Minnesota. I know Naz Reid is a guy that people have played some this season. His minutes have been okay coming off the bench, but at 5K, I mean, you're paying the premium for Naz Reid right now. Mike Conley is really cheap, but he also sucks. I mean, he just doesn't have much fantasy upside. He's 4,800, so I guess on a slate right now that doesn't have a ton of value, you could maybe consider Mike Conley for value, but this is someone that I never like playing Mike Conley in DFS. He just doesn't have much of a ceiling. So yeah, I think that's really it for Minnesota. Nothing else looks great here. Moving on to the other side now with San Antonio. San Antonio in a really tough spot here. Minnesota has been I think they've actually been like the best defensive team in the league this season. So don't really want to be rostering many San Antonio guys on this slate. Victor Wembanyama obviously has massive upside and can put up a huge game any night. He's been limited a lot this season by either like foul trouble or blowouts. If this game's competitive, I think we do see Victor Wembanyama play like 32, 33, 34 minutes, and Wemby's going to be productive when he's out there. But again, the matchup's really tough. The price tag feels about right at 8,400. If I had to play anyone on San Antonio, he would be the guy that I would play. But like Keldon Johnson at his price tag, Devin Vassell came off the bench last game, played really limited minutes. I would be worried about him in DFS right now until we see him get back to playing normal minutes. So he's not really a guy I want to roster. Same with Zach Collins. Tough spot for Zach Collins. I don't see much I like on San Antonio. If I had to play anyone here, I think I would go to Wemby. But that'll do it for that game. Moving on to the next one, the Pelicans and the Rockets. So for the Pelicans, no CJ McCollum, and we got to keep an eye on the status of Zion and Herb Jones. So Zion was questionable got ruled out last game for personal reasons. We don't know exactly why he was out. And then Herb Jones got ruled out for a leg injury. So no Zion and no Herb Jones last game. We'll have to see if they play for this game. Without Zion and Herb Jones last game, you did see Jordan Hawkins and Dyson Daniels both start. They also started JRE. So I'd assume those will be the same starters. That would be the starting five for this game if those guys are out. Obviously, if there's no Zion, that really benefits Brandon Ingram. Now, Brandon Ingram was pretty disappointing last game, but it was a tough matchup against Minnesota. It was a big blowout as well. This is definitely a better spot against Houston. I don't think it's the greatest spot, but I think it's a better spot for Brandon Ingram. I would have some interest in Brandon Ingram today if Zion is out, but if Zion plays, I don't really like Ingram at his salary. Between Ingram or Zion, if I had to pick one of those two to roster, I think Zion gives you a higher ceiling, so I'd probably rather roster him if he's playing. And then Jonas Valanciunas, we know the story with J-Val. He's going to be productive when he's out there. You just never really know how many minutes J-Val's going to play. At 6,200, if you want to take a shot on him, I think it's fine. I definitely would feel better about J-Val's minutes if Zion's out again. If Zion plays, I'm not as interested in J-Val. And then these other guys like Hawkins, Daniels, JRE, I think you're only considering these guys if Herb Jones and Zion are out. If Herb Jones and Zion play, I have no interest in them. I know Hawkins' last game was pretty disappointing, but still played a ton of minutes. He's been productive as a starter this season. He would be playable if Zion's out, if Herb Jones is out. Same with Dyson Daniels at 5,100. He would be playable. And then JRE is cheap as well. He was minimum salary last slate. Obviously, he got priced up today. But if there's no Zion, if JRE starts again, you could consider him for value at 4,300. If I had to guess, I would say Zion and Herb probably play today. But again, I'm making this video on Thursday afternoon, and we don't have that news yet. So we're just kind of guessing right now. But that'll do it for that game. Let's move on. Or that'll do it for that side of the game. Let's move on to the other side of the game now. I'll talk about Houston. So for the Rockets here, if we're going to consider any Rockets on this slate, I think we're going to be looking to probably like the top four guys: Şengün, Van Vliet, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith. You could go to Dillon Brooks as well, but I think his price tag is probably about right. Of the four Rockets guys, I think Fred Van Vliet's probably my favorite. I think it's close between him and Şengün. We know Şengün is a high upside player. There is some downside with Şengün because he can get into foul trouble at times, but in this matchup against J-Val, as long as he avoids foul trouble, I think we do see Şengün play 30-plus minutes, and we know Şengün can stuff the stat sheet, can do everything when he's on the floor. Don't mind him at 7,700. Don't mind Fred Van Vliet either at 7,500. Van Vliet going to play a ton of minutes. He's been playing a ton of minutes in their competitive games this season. Usage has been pretty good. He's been taking a good amount of shots. I know the usage and the shot attempts lately, last two games have not been great, but we did see him take 22 shots against Sacramento, 17 against Charlotte. He still got big-time upside. The price tag at 7,500 still feels pretty reasonable. I don't mind going to either one of Şengün or Van Vliet. Jalen Green did have a big game last game against the Lakers in only 21 minutes. I'll probably pass on Jalen Green here. I think I'd rather get up to Van Vliet or Şengün if I can. But Jalen Green's fine. Jabari Smith is fine. That's really it, though, from the Rockets, and I think that's it for that game. So let's go ahead and talk about the last three games of the night, Clippers and Mavericks. So for the Clippers, this is a team that I've just kind of been avoiding lately, and I think I'm just going to continue to do that. It's going to be hard to predict which one of these guys is going to have a good game any night. I think last game, I want to say it was Paul George that did the best. Paul George had 41 DraftKings points in 39 minutes. Kawhi had 33 DK points in 36 minutes. Harden had 32 DK points in 36 minutes, and Westbrook had 33 DK points in 31 minutes. So, none of these guys, put up, massive games last game, and I just think when they're all playing together, it's just going to be hard for one of them to, go out there and just dominate because they're just sharing the ball with other high-usage players. When you're looking at the price tags, I still think Kawhi's my favorite of the four if I had to pick one of the big four from the Clippers to play, but I'm just not interested in really any of these guys at their price tags. Honestly, my favorite play from the Clippers is Ivica Zubac. I think it's a really good matchup for Zubac here going up against Dallas. Dallas has been very vulnerable against bigs this season, and with Mason Plumlee out right now, we're going to see pretty secure minutes for Zubac. He played 30 minutes the game that Plumlee got injured in. He played 29 minutes last game without Plumlee. I think we're going to see Zubac play around 30 minutes a night moving forward while Plumlee's out. And at 5,700, that's cheap for Zubac if we're going to get 30 minutes. So my favorite play from the Clippers is probably Zubac at 5,700. And that's really it from that team. Now, on the other side with Dallas, I think if we're looking at Dallas here, we're probably just going to consider either Luka or Kyrie. I haven't really been playing Kyrie at all this season. I think Kyrie's been a little bit overpriced. Luka, on the other hand, you can always play. Don't think this is the best spot for Luka against the Clippers. Really good, defensive team, good defenders. Paul George, Kawhi are going to be giving Luka, as much trouble as they can. Luka's a matchup-proof player, though. He can put up a huge game any night. He is fine to play on this slate. Kyrie, I'll probably pass on. The rest of the Dallas guys, I'll probably pass on. It is worth mentioning that last game, Derek Lively was out, and he's questionable for today. We did see Maxi Kleber draw the start in place of Lively, but he didn't really do anything, and he's doubtful for today. I'm assuming, I think it was Kleber that started. It might have been Powell, or I think they might actually change up. Yeah, they changed up their starting lineup. That's right. They were supposed to start Kleber. They said they were starting Kleber, and it wound up being Powell that started. But last game, Powell started, played 24 minutes, had 14 Draftkings points. We've seen Dwight Powell, even in spot starts, just not really be a guy that you want to roster in DFS. So even if Lively's out again, I don't really have any interest in Powell. Don't really have any interest in Lively. I think Luka's the guy we're considering from Dallas, and that's probably it. So move on to the next game, OKC and Sacramento. For OKC here, pretty good matchup going up against Sacramento. I think this is a game that projects to be pretty high scoring. So if we're looking at some OKC guys to roster on this slate, I think the two guys that I like most are SGA and Chet. Giddey, Jalen Williams, and Lou Dort all feel priced where they should be, but I feel like you can still get some value on SGA and Chet. We know SGA is going to have a huge role, going to play huge minutes, and even playing alongside J-Dub and Chet and all these other guys, I mean, SGA has still shown massive upside. Had a huge game last game against Cleveland. I feel like this could be another spot where we see another big game from SGA. No issue with him at 10,500. And then Chet been really productive on a permanent basis this season. The minutes have also been strong lately. As long as he avoids foul trouble, I think we're going to get like 33, 34 minutes from Chet. And he's someone that can score, can rebound, can get defensive stats. He just does everything when he's on the floor. There is foul trouble risk in this spot going up against Sabonis, who does kind of draw fouls pretty well. But as long as Chet avoids foul trouble, I think there's upside for him at 7,800. Not really considering any other Thunder, though, on this slate. And on the other side with Sacramento, got to keep an eye on the status of De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox was out last game. We'll have to see if he returns for this one. They actually changed up the starting lineup last game, and they started Keon Ellis, in place of Davion Mitchell. Now, Keon Ellis as a starter was not great. Only played 21 minutes, had just 14 Draftkings points. He's only 3,900, and right now there's not a lot of value on the slate. So I think if Keon Ellis starts again, he's going to be a playable value. Davion Mitchell, I don't really have any interest in coming off the bench. Just not a guy that I want to be rostering. Even when De'Aaron Fox has been out this season, Davion Mitchell hasn't really been fantasy relevant. Sabonis, we'll talk about at 9,900. I think Sabonis is in play regardless of if Fox is in or out. If Fox is out, though, I think Sabonis looks even better. This is a matchup against OKC that I don't think it's as good as it used to be. OKC is a team we used to target a lot with opposing centers. They were a really good matchup for centers the last few seasons. Now that they have Chet, I don't think this is as good of a spot, again, as it used to be. But Sabonis is going to stuff the stat sheet when he's out there. The offense is going to run through Sabonis if there is no De'Aaron Fox. I would still be fine playing him at 9,900. Obviously, would like him more if Fox was out. And then Fox, if he plays at 8,500, I do have interest in. I had interest in Fox last slate until, obviously, he got ruled out. But this price tag of 8,500, I think is a little too cheap for Fox, especially in this matchup against OKC in what should be a fast-paced game. So at 8,500, if Fox plays today, I do like him quite a bit. But, Keegan Murray, Malik Monk, Kevin Huerter, all these guys feel priced appropriately. I think the only way I'm even considering these guys at their price tags is if Fox remains out. If Fox comes back, I really have no interest in anyone else on Sacramento. So that'll do it for that game. Let's talk about the last game of the night, the Lakers and the Suns. Some big news to talk about for the Lakers to monitor is Anthony Davis' status. Did not play in their last game. I'd assume AD comes back for this game against the Suns, especially since it's the in-season tournament. They probably want to win this game. But if AD is out again, I mean, we know who it's going to benefit. It's going to pretty much benefit everyone. Like, I think LeBron, it benefits D'Angelo Russell, gives Reeves a boost. Christian Wood was very disappointing last game, starting in place of Anthony Davis. Played 22 minutes and had just 6 Draftkings points. I mean, just literally the worst game I think I've ever seen Christian Wood play. Just only took one shot. I mean, he was doing nothing when he was on the floor. Christian Wood has shown the ability to be really productive when he gets minutes. If Anthony Davis is out again, I'd be fine going back to Christian Wood. Obviously, after last slate, it's scary to do that because he was so bad, but I'd give him another chance at 5,800. I still think Christian Wood can provide value on that salary if there is no Anthony Davis. And then, LeBron, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, I think would all be playable as well. Rui did have a really big game off the bench, 44 DraftKings points in 26 minutes. I would definitely like Rui as well for value if AD's out again. If AD comes back, though, probably going to pass on Rui, probably going to pass on a lot of these other guys. If AD plays, obviously you could pay up for AD. I would be a little hesitant to go there just because, AD coming back from injury is always scary. He's always there's a chance he could go to the locker room again or something like that. But we know the upside AD has. LeBron at his price tag, I'm probably only considering LeBron if AD's out. And I think that that can be said for Russell and Reeves and the rest of these guys. So kind of just got to keep an eye on that status of AD because that's some big injury news to monitor. Right now, if AD's in, I don't like a ton on the Lakers. And then on the other side with the Suns, so we got to keep an eye on the status of Devin Booker. Devin Booker's been out the last few games, and it looks like he might have a chance to return for this game. We'll have to see. If Booker does return, especially now that they have Bradley Beal back as well, I'm pretty much just going to full fade the Suns if Booker's back. If Booker remains out, then I think we can look to guys like KD, maybe Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal in his debut with the Suns was not great. Only played 24 minutes, only had 26 DK points. Clearly, they were limiting him in his first game back. I would assume he plays more than 24 minutes in this game, probably like 28, 30. It's 7K. I mean, it's tough to get excited about Beal, but I think he'd at least be playable if there is no Booker. No interest, though, in Beal if Booker returns. KD at his price tag, I think I'm only considering KD at this price tag if Booker is out again. I think it's definitely a game that the Suns want to win against the Lakers in-season tournament game. KD's going to have a huge role, going to play a ton of minutes. It's just that at his price tag, you kind of need Booker to be out to really want to roster KD at that salary. And then the rest of these guys like Nurkic and Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen, you're only considering these guys if Booker's out again. Even if Booker is out again, I don't think these guys are like slam dunks. I want to say it was last game. I think it was Gordon that started. It might have been Gordon. I can't remember who went to the bench, whether it was Gordon or Grayson Allen. I think it might have been Gordon that went to the bench. Grayson Allen started. Yeah, Grayson Allen had a huge game last game. I would not be chasing that. I think Grayson Allen's a pretty good fade on this slate, especially if Booker comes back. You can just pretty much avoid Grayson Allen. So honestly, even though I'm excited to watch this Suns-Lakers game, right now it's not a game I want to get too heavily invested in for DFS. But that could change if Anthony Davis is out again, if Devin Booker's out again. But I think for now we just kind of have to assume those guys are playing. Again, I'm making this video on Thursday afternoon, so we got to kind of wait for this news. But that'll do it for that game, guys, and that'll do it for this 9-game slate for Friday night. This one should be a fun one. I'm excited to watch some of these games for the in-season tournament. For these in-season tournament games again. But that's what I got for tonight, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, appreciate you guys watching. Hit that like button down below if you guys enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. Be sure to go check out PrizePicks as well, sponsor of the video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks, linked down below in the description. Or just when you sign up, make sure to use promo code NOAH. You'll get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you sign up for PrizePicks with my promo code. Check them out if you have not yet. But that's all I got for tonight, guys. Good luck on this Friday night slate. Enjoy your weekend, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.